Now, the next part of the qualitative analysis is dry test, in which we will introduce a salt in front of a flame so that we can see the characteristic color which a flame is having in the presence of a particular metal cation. Right now, understand one thing: the direct flame test is there. You don't have to do anything. Take a paste of salt in the concentrated HCl. Right now, what I'm doing, I'll just take a paste of salt, right, in the presence of concentrated HCl. And what you will do is taken in the lower oxidizing zone. You know that the lower oxidizing zone is the one which is just after the blue zone, just slightly above the blue zone on the right hand side. Take care. That's the lower oxidizing zone where there will be a lot of temperature and there will be a lot of oxygen available. Right now, the color imparted to the flame is called the flame test. Now, we have done these flame tests already in alkali metal and alkaline earth metal. Right, you know that sodium will give a golden yellow color to a flame. Potassium gives a violet color, is also known as the lilac color, and lithium gives a carmine red. Calcium gives brick red color. Barium is a very beautiful apple green color. Copper gives a green color, and strontium gives crimson green color. So these are the color which is imparted to flame by these particular metal atom, and this is due to the excitation of electrons in the presence of flame. What exactly happened? The electrons is getting the outermost electron is getting excited, and because of that excitation energy, it is absorbing the energy from the visible region. Now, when it is absorbing the energy from the visible region, it will emit complementary light, complementary color to it. For example, if I have taken whip gear, if it is absorbing higher energy region, so it will appear reddish, orangish red. If it is absorbing lower energy region, it will be appearing blue. So whatever it is absorbing, it will be like the complementary color of it, which it will be emitting. So this is the flame test. Now after flame test, we have borax bead test. I'll just give you introduction about that borax bead test, right? Just understand what exactly is going on over here. Now understand here that I'll take borax. What is borax? Na2B4O7.10H2O. That's the way it is written, but the actual formula of borax is B. Just do one thing, write 4 boron like this. Between every boron, we know that we have to put oxygen like this. You have to put OH. You have to put OH. Now is OH minus is forming a coordinate bond over here, so that boron gets a negative charge. OH minus forming a coordinate bond here, I'll get a negative charge. So I'll got two negative charge on the structure. I'll be having 2 Na plus outside. Dot 8 H2. If someone is asking you how many water of crystallization in borax we have, it is like 8. 8 water of crystallization will be there. Now what will happen if I'm heating this borax? On strong heating, I'll be getting sodium metaborate, NaBO2, and I'll be getting B2O3. Now, what will happen? This sodium metaborate, this B2O3 and this sodium metaborate is nothing but it is a glassy bead. Getting it? So I have a bead type structure, like a small round shaped bead, a glassy bead I have. Now what I'll do, I'll put a transition metal oxide over there. Now transition metal oxide, when it reacts with B2O3, I'll be getting the metaborates of that particular transition metal atom, which gives a particular color to the bead. So in case of copper, I'll be getting a blue bead. So I come to know that the in the particular sample copper is present, right? So this is a way a borax bead test work, and whatever I'll be getting is the metaborate of transition elements or the metal atom for which you are observing a borax bead test. I guess this is the theory behind this borax bead test. Take care. Hope it might be clear for you. Now understand here, after doing this, now, what I did, I heated this borax bead test. What I'll be getting sodium metaborate and B2O3. This B2O3 will combine with a transition metal oxide, and I'll be getting metabolite of that particular transition element. Now, these are the color which is given to us, and these are the color which they'll be asking. Now, understand that color in oxidizing flame, you know that flame has two part, oxidizing as well as reducing. Now, in oxidizing flame, generally the question which is asked in mains and advanced will be based on the oxidizing flame color. They will not ask anything about the reducing flame. So now understand, copper will produce, when hot it is green, and when it's cold it is blue bead. Now, iron brown yellow or pale yellow, chromium yellow and green, cobalt blue, manganese violet, and amethyst nickel violet, and reddish brown. Now, for the exam perspective, you should know the color of copper, iron, chromium, cobalt, nickel. They'll be asking you these, right? Now, only the color you have to remember is when it is cold. This is the general thing which they'll be asking, right? So it is very important for you to remember all these color. Okay. So I guess you understand that these are the particular transition elements which are forming the characteristic colored bead, and because of that bead, it is known as borax bead test. Now, listen. Next is microcosmic salt bead test. Now, in that case, I do have sodium ammonium hydrogen phosphate. Once I'm heating that sodium ammonium hydrogen phosphate, I'll be getting sodium metaphosphate. And this sodium metaphosphate, which is produced by heating this microcosmic salt bead, will react with the transition metal elements oxide to give a particular bead like borax bead test. Now again here you should remember certain color, right? Now what are the color? For copper it will be blue, for iron it will be yellow, for chromium it will be green, cobalt blue is similar to the above thing which you have done. That's it. Getting it? So these are the things which you should know, right? Okay, now the cobalt nitrate charcoal test. In cobalt nitrate charcoal test, we have to just remember the reaction of zinc with cobalt nitrate. What we exactly do here, take any salt which you are taking over there. Now, for example, I have taken ZnCl2. Just mix it with the double the amount of sodium carbonate. When you heat that particular thing, I'll be getting zinc carbonate. You have to just add some drops of water before heating it, so that they'll mix evenly, and then then heat it. Then again, on further heating, zinc carbonate becomes zinc oxide and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide gas comes out, and this reaction happens in the charcoal cavity. Now, once that zinc oxide form, you just do one thing: in the heating solution itself, just add few drops of cobalt nitrate, that is CoNO3 whole twice. Now, what exactly happened? Cobalt nitrate is also will decompose to give cobalt oxide COO plus nitrogen dioxide plus oxygen gas. There's a standard reaction which you are getting over there. Now, after that, what will happen? Zinc oxide, which is formed over here, will react with cobalt oxide, and whatever we will get is cobalt zincate, that is green in color. And this is a very important compound as perspective of D block element. They might ask this particular question because it is very unique sort of reaction. Take care, is there in your D block elements for zinc, and just remember that color is cobalt zincate, green in color. Getting it? Plus you just remember with the for the tin, that is bluish green, and I don't think that you require any other thing except zinc and tin over there. Getting it? So this is all about the try test. Now after this try test, we will be starting with the hardcore test of anions and cations, which is the actual start of your qualitative analysis. Now till now, whatever we have done is just a quick brush up, and it's a collection of very important reactions for the entire inorganic chemistry. So write all the reactions nicely, and make sure that you should excel all these reactions, right? Okay.